Hello, everybody. Give people a few minutes to join us.
Hello.
Hi, Kelly.
How are you guys?
Give people another minute or so to join, and then we will get started.
To feel bad because I didn't feel good or I was sick. That was totally her.
All right, I guess we can go ahead and get started. Before Steve takes it away and shows us this technology catalog, which I'm super excited to look through and hear about what technology you all are using and what tech solutions you're looking for. I wanted to introduce you to our new DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist, Lenny. Do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. Thanks, Rory. I'm really happy to be here with everyone. I am focused on centering Black and other historically oppressed people through programming and other funding and commitments. I have contributed to equity work for the State Department and for other higher eds here in Central Texas, and I'm excited just to help everyone kind of have a standard of equity that is inclusive to all folks. So just excited to meet everyone, and please let me know if there's any questions I can answer or any time that I can meet with you privately. I'd love to just have an open line of communication with everyone.
Thank you so much. We're incredibly lucky to have you and happy to see you here today. So thank you so much. And I'll put your TED Talk in the chat as well. We're just gonna keep sharing your TED Talk over and over.
Thanks, guys.
It's amazing. It's really great. So I'll put that in the chat as well. All right, so Steve Porter, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us who you are at Austin Pets Alive and AMPA?
I would love to. My name is Steve Porter. I do a few different things. It's a split role between Austin Pets Alive on the ground in the operations and more recently, helping out with all of this amazing HASS work on the AMPA side. It's all focused on everything, I would say, technology, data, and data analysis. So that would be my quick intro. Does that sound good, Rory?
Awesome, yeah, and you're leading the technology work.
Yeah, good point. One of my roles in the HASS side of the world is I lead the tools and tech group, which we've spent a lot of time trying to organize all of the different great solutions that are out there. For instance, I see Jessica on this call. Adoptimize is one of those great solutions. It's in the tech catalog. And so what I'm going to show today is what we've put together to try to organize all those platforms in a searchable catalog. So I'm going to share or attempt to. Can folks see my screen? Someone just holler out yes, because I never know once I'm
Yes.
sharing. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so here's the intro slide, which I just did. My name's Steve Porter. This is the HASS Technology Catalog demo. Before I jump into the demo, which is gonna be the meat of the presentation, quick, very high level overview of what it is and why the heck we built it. So what it is an online catalog. So it's a website where you can go and search or filter based on element or use case. So there are things like, you know, if I want a platform for adoptions or for foster, you can filter on all of those and it will provide you a list of technology solutions we as a group have found that might fit that bill. And then you can drill in and for each one of those technologies, at a very minimum, we've given a brief description of what the heck it does. along with links to get you more information. So a link to their website and some other little goodies. And then this last bullet is what I think we are actively working on, is we want to continue to add not only technologies to this database, but also case studies. And so when I say a case study, our one requirement is that an organization is raising their hand to sponsor that case study. So it can't come just solely from the vendor. It has to be someone like myself. I've written them on behalf of APA, but so, you know, I wrote one highlighting some work we did with using Google Forms and Google Data Studio. But the idea here is to start to show real life examples of how technologies can be used. And so that's at a very high level what we're doing with it. And why the heck are we doing this is because it's part of our mission. And so the Tools and Tech group, our mission is to try to come up with modern technology solutions and supply a network of resources to help, you know, promote those solutions and get shelters to innovate and get shelters to use them. So this is just part of that. So next, without further ado, the demo. And when I've done this in the past, I've failed to start with how do you get to the technology catalog. So I hope I'm doing better here. You get to it through the HASS website, and it's under the HASS in Action. And you can click on this, the technology catalog, and it will bring you right into the tech catalog. And there is a disclaimer still at the top. We're still considering it in beta. I think we might remove that soon. We've gotten some great feedback and we're feeling like it's ready to call, you know, full live. But essentially there's three functions you can do with the tech catalog. You can view the catalog, you can add a technology to the catalog, or you can add a case study. And so I will first show you what it's like to view it. And so this is what I was speaking to before. You have a big long list of all sorts of technologies we've added. I think we're up to around 100. And they're all grouped by what we're calling tags. And we've, you know, added, you know, the tags are up here at the top. So you can, you know, quickly jump to a tag. And then underneath a tag, you can drill in and actually read about the solution. So this is 911 Foster. And, you know, you can get, again, a link into the solution. We've tried to write a quick description, say, is this for the animal welfare industry only, yes or no, some other contact info, and then a quick bit about the pricing model. And I will drill into a little bit more about what that means back from this list. So that's quickly how you can jump to a tag, but then you can also filter. And so you can filter on, is this solution free? And that will reduce down to just free solutions. You can say flat rate subscription, freemium, etc. I'm not gonna read all of those, but I will jump in and show you there's a definitions page that explains exactly what we're talking about when we say per user or free or freemium, because for non-tech folks that might not be completely obvious. The next two bits we tried to catalog or I guess tag each solution with is a complexity to maintain and a complexity to implement. And this, you'll notice there's no link for a dictionary for each of those. That's on our to-do list. But essentially, we're trying to come up with a rubric that says, you know, is this solution one, really hard to maintain? It takes a lot of work, you know, from super easy all the way up to super complex, as well as how hard is it to get up and running? And, you know, this is at least our first cut at what I think most, or what we think most users are interested in finding out, you know, to filter down to a technology. One thing we've talked about down the road is sort of in front of this page, you might have a very quick, you know, self-evaluation, which you as a shelter could describe, you know, where are you on the spectrum of technology sophistication? And so if you're, you know, super advanced and you have a whole IT department, maybe you're okay with something that's, you know, a lot more complex to maintain or harder to implement. But if you are a small shelter and you need something that's super easy, you might, answer a few questions that put you into that category. The idea being then you would jump into this page and it would automatically filter down to solutions that would meet your needs. So that's it about, I think, the technologies and the specific detail page. I did want to jump into one case study that I just wrote for Google Forms. And so you notice on that first Foster 911, there was no case studies section. That's because we haven't written one for that platform yet. But as we add to this catalog, they will show up here. And so it could, this could, hopefully eventually there'll be, 5, 10, as many case studies as we can add, because this is, I think, really what is useful to a shelter user to see, okay, great, it's a solution, it's Google Forms, but how do I put it into action? And so this describes exactly what, this was in this case me, used Google Forms to do. It goes through a step-by-step journey of how it's used at our shelter, as well as a step-by-step journey for how do you implement it with quick links. I put links in here to say, here's a tutorial if you're completely new to Google Forms or Google Data Studio. Here's how you get started. And we're also starting in the case studies to collect ratings of satisfaction, ease of use, ease of deployment. Eventually, as we collect a bunch of these ratings, we will tie them into this main page where we're grading how easy they are to maintain. As of right now, we as a group went through this and tagged them ourselves. But the idea is if we can crowdsource some of those case study of how people are actually feeling about how hard they were to implement or maintain, we can start to make these scores not just what we as a group think, but what the whole industry thinks. Trying to think, I think that's about it for the viewing of the catalog. But I want to jump back out to how do you add something to the catalog or add a case study? And this is a really, I think we put a lot of work to make this not just something we as a technology group can add to. The idea is that everyone out there, and so this is going to be at the end of this presentation, my call to action to y'all is, if you know of a great solution, get in here and add it. We need all your help to really fill out the data. And so if you want to add to the catalog, you click on this page and it's an embedded Airtable form where you can, name your technology, provide basically all the elements we just saw on that detail page. And scroll all the way down, you'd click submit, and then it would be not immediately added to the catalog, but what it basically does is it adds all of this information. And then there's a rule in Airtable that shoots right now me an email that says someone's added something new to the catalog, and I go quickly review it. And as long as it all looks reasonable, I check off one box to say publish, and then voila, it will show up in the catalog. So very similar. There's also a form to add a case study, and similar to adding a new technology. Anyone can come in and add one of these. And so I ask all of you, if you know of a great solution and it's working great for you, please, please, please add it. This whole system only gets better with the more information that goes into the database. So I'll pause really quick there. Is there any questions? That's kind of actually one more bit on my demo, and it's hidden down here. If you have a suggestion for improvement, maybe I should highlight this more. Maybe I don't want improvement suggestions, but it's down here, and you can, it's similar to those other two, it's a feedback form. So if you think, hey, Steve, this is the worst platform and you should change X, Y, and Z, tell me about it. We want to hear what's great, what's wrong. Also, it lets you tag specific technologies that are already in the platform, as well as case studies. So if you see an error about something, this is where anyone can submit a correction. So I'll pause there. Are any questions so far?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if someone has sort of like a question about a technology that they're looking for, is the simplest way to just sort of run through the tech catalog, or are there certain tags that you can search through?
I mean, if you had a question about a specific technology, one that's partly we've put out there the HASS technology group email list. That could be one option, or yeah, you could send it in that feedback form and tag the technology and say, hey, we're thinking about implementing this. We have a question. The other avenue there is, that's why we added specifically on the case studies, actually on both the case studies and the technologies, we added a contact, right? So we want to put as much information out there in this catalog so folks can self-serve and quickly go to the best person possible to answer the question. And so if you're in a case study and you're like, wow, that looks great, how'd you do that? Okay, you gave me some information, but I need more. The person that submitted that case study's information is there. You could reach out to them directly. Or if you're on a technology, so I'll use, again, Jessica, because she's on the call here, and it's Adoptimize. Her contact info is right in there, so you could reach out to her with any questions.
Oh,
Rory, I think was part of your question how you actually search on the technology?
yeah, I think so. Like if I went there and I wanted new shelter software or something.
Go back to the
just-
catalog, Steve. I think that'll help. You cannot search on a tag right now, but that may be, I think that may be in the backlog, Steve. I don't know if we got to that because I remember talking.
I mean, so specifically you can't search on a tag, but they're all up here at the top.
Got it.
Click on any one, you're going to jump to that section.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. This is awesome. I feel like, yeah, I love this so much, and I'm really, really excited to hear what other folks think and are thinking, or any questions that people have.
We have another question slide at the end, so I'm going to keep plowing through.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry.
But please interrupt me at any time. I love very interactive demos, so stop me, ask questions, please. So this is probably the most technical of the slides, but there's a few concepts here that I think are important to highlight. So we built it with a combination of systems that, as we're using them now, they're all free, which is great. There's a zero cost to us to run this thing. And it's basically an Airtable base, which Airtable is, I describe it as somewhere between Excel, like a spreadsheet program, and a full-fledged database. And in a second, I'll jump in and show you the Airtable interface, but that is where all of the information is held about the technologies. And Airtable is what's called a freemium pricing model. And so it is free up to a certain number of records in the database. And our use, actually, it would be great if we got and started having to pay. It's a minimal price even when we have to pay, but we would have to get, I think it's 1,200 technologies listed in the catalog before we have to start paying. So that'd be a great problem to have. And then as I showed you, we use what's called the Airtable form. And those are how you add technologies and add case studies. And the one sort of, I guess, most sophisticated or complicated piece of the system is that viewing of the catalog. And that is a custom web page. But as I highlight in bold here, we got a volunteer to do that for us. And it, again, this is something I try to highlight as a theme in all of my work, both at APA and at AMPA. There are lots of amazing engineers out there who are love these little coding projects. So if you can come up with a small project that they can get done and there's a clear, this is the end and I don't have to maintain this forever, they're out there and they're willing and actually excited to help. The last bit or point I like to call out, which this is maybe a little bit tech speak, but the idea of what we've done here is to separate the content or the data about the technologies from the actual visual interface. And so the web page that shows, those technologies is, think of it as a template on top of the data in the database. And why that's important is, one, it allows us to create those forms where anyone can enter information. And two, it allows us to quickly improve the look and feel of those pages. I will say they're pretty rudimentary right now. I always joke that if I were designing systems, everything would look like Craigslist. But I know that I am probably not the average user. And so that's also on our backlog, is to start to look at these detailed pages and improve them. Right now they're, very text-based. And so the next iteration will probably go through and improve this page, the template, but because we've sort of separated the UI from the actual data, it means that we don't have to, there's not, 100 different pages where we have to make those changes to. It's one template, if that makes sense. I think that's it for how do we build the thing. So how are we measuring our impact? We're doing it using the whole, all of the components of the site are embedded in the Google Sites. And then we use Google Analytics to start to measure how many users are actually using the site. And so, everything we in HASS are doing, we're really trying to be data-driven. And so what I'm hoping to do with the tools and technology group is start to look at monthly how many users are on the site. And we're going to try to keep improving this thing and increase that number. And so this is, I think, important to any project is, don't just put something out there and call it done. Put it out there and make sure that you're watching, your impact. I've been over a few of these points. Our sort of backlog or big things that are coming next. Again, we want to keep adding as many case studies and new technologies to the catalog as possible. We're looking to complete those definitions for complexity to implement and maintain. As I was just describing, in that idea of separating the visual experience from the data, we want to improve the look and feel of the technology detail and the case study page. So think about contributing. If you know someone at a shelter that is implementing technology or is, would be interested in viewing the catalog or in submitting to it, share this information. If you know a vendor out there that is doing great work, get them to do the work for us, right? We are requiring for the case studies that there is an organization that raises their hand to sort of be attached to that case study. But most vendors will have their clients and they can certainly, they can crowdsource those people and bring them into the fold. So if you're on this call and you can know of someone, know of a vendor that needs to contribute, please, please get the word out. And that's it.
Steve, Jessica Schlater here. I have a question.
Yes.
Do you recommend multiple testimonials? And because I know that you were also maybe adding a ratings component, and one of the things that makes the rating component really useful is multiple ratings. Are you looking for volume here? I mean, I also know that I'm a vendor, so I can't be providing my own case studies. But I'm just curious, what you're envisioning.
Well, you certainly can provide your case studies as long as you bring someone from, I know you've done stuff at PVAC, at El Paso. As long as you bring someone from those those organizations to the mix, yes, you can definitely bring your own case studies. You know, I don't want it's like quantity versus quality. I want quality case studies. I don't just want, you know, tons, but yes, I think we won't be able to really, you know, aggregate those case study ratings until we have a lot of them. And so I think that's maybe a question. I want to collect them to see if we get enough data around case studies. But yeah, if you have one case study, I don't think it's fair to use those ratings, if that makes sense.
Do you want us to be like, as vendors, should we be directing people to rate on your platform? Like, do you think that this is in the future, do you see this being kind of like the place where everyone, like kind of like a Capterra for technology, becomes the place to go and rate animal shelter technology?
Yeah, I would love that.
Cool. Thank you.
I guess the ratings are important because everyone wants to look at that. I am more interested in the meat of the case study, so that people can see how solutions were put into place and how effective they were, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Steve. This is really super exciting. Do you want to stop sharing your screen so we can all like see each other? And thanks.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if other people have questions. I also know that we have these tech folks on this call, and curious if there are sort of tech solutions that people are looking for, or what kind of problems you're running into as well. There's a question in the chat for you, Steve. I'm a trainer and Google Doc is what I'm using to write training plans as well as behavioral notes to clients. However, I'm depending more on video training with the pandemic. Is there technology to combine write-ups with videos?
I don't know that offhand. The video stuff I've often I'll upload to YouTube. I think the question is there a way to kind of annotate videos similar to what like Zoom does when you record presentation, you get the text annotation. I don't know offhand. It's a good question. We can
Actually, Steve, I literally read this, I think it was last night. Zoom is adding that even to the free, even to the free ones where you can get the entire text of a video.
Yeah. So that, I mean, I guess that could be a good way. Or if it's on the free version of Zoom, you could record, you know, a Zoom call with yourself about your training plan, and then you should get the text annotation, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think there's one in Google. I don't know if that one's free or if it's an add-in, but there's also one in Google as well.
You got some snow there, David.
That was from last week, but it's a great shot in my backyard. So with 1.5 feet of snow, the St. Bernards liked it.
Nice. It's good to see you, David. Thanks for being here.
Hey, great to see everybody. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should say I get it. David was a big part of helping put this together. So thank you, David. There's a few members in the tools and tech group that kind of led the charge on this. Brian and David were two of those.
Amazing. And it's going to be linked on our HASS, on the Human Animal Support Services resource page. It will have, it will be linked like off of the homepage. So that will be launching tomorrow. Yeah. Any other questions? Bobby, I see you unmuted and you love technology.
I geek out with these guys, brother. Thank you. Steve, I actually had a question for you. Speaking of sort of the technology space, I know you love to live in this space and you have been a big part of really implementing a lot of these technologies into AMPA and HASS and APA. What technology is getting you really excited right now? And what do you think is going to really help us move in the right direction that you've seen being released?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of exciting things coming out. The ones that I'm really getting excited, and it's, like a lot of what we're doing has changed because of COVID. All of the sort of virtual platforms being introduced, I think are just getting a lot more focus, and there's a lot, we can do, I think, to engage people virtually. It's critical, obviously, when you're adopting an animal. Eventually, there's got to be most of the time an in-person interaction, but I think some of the stuff we can do virtually is super helpful, whether it's counseling sessions or even fully virtual adoptions, that I think has been forced to get a lot of attention because of COVID. At APA, we went to not total virtual adoptions, but pretty much most everything possible was done virtually, from contracting to meets ahead of time. And our adoption numbers, were, I think, I might get this wrong, like 20 or 30% higher last year. It's crazy what the teams have done in the world of COVID. So, yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed in our technology meetings, what I think is cool, we just saw, I'll give an example, because we just saw, was it Adoptimize, Steve? Was that their name? All right, is everyone familiar with them? It takes an image of a pet and makes it better. It's totally free. Because, we have a wide range of people we're trying to support at HASS, right? You have the Austin Pets Alive, which are a pretty sophisticated organization, and then you have the mom and pop rescues on the other side that are never going to adopt any kind of big technology, right? But when you see these little things coming out, like Adoptimize, I think it's really cool because it really helps those mom and pops at least take the first step. Because it's really hard for them to take on a CRM, right? They're gonna use a spreadsheet for a while. We're not gonna get them past that, and that's okay. But if there are tools out there that are really simple, like Adoptimize, those are the ones that encourage me about getting those small organizations to actually perform better.
Thanks, David. Chris, I have a question for you, running a shelter, running a show. So obviously through COVID, there's been a lot of space created for us to really invest time into technology. But as we were kind of fearful that the world might go back to normal, what is like the one technology that you want to make sure that your organization holds on to, even if things get crazy?
You kind of threw me there at the end. I thought you were going to say the one thing that I still want, that I need, that we don't have. I don't know if there is just one thing, but I think having the lost animals posted on our website is critical to ensuring that we're supporting the returns to home. But I mean, I don't know, it's hard to stop there. One of the first things we did was add online functionality for people to post, whether it was a lost or a found report, or to sign up to become a foster caregiver. So, some of that was working with existing technology, website, and online forms. But I don't know, the list goes on and on. I mean, microchipping and database registries.
Well, it looks like, Elena, the Shelter Love team, obviously immersed in customer experience and support, want to know what you feel like you're missing. So why don't you tag on with that?
We don't have the animals that are with finders available right now on our website. So they're being supported through what other platforms are out there. We're using Finding Rover, and we guide folks to some Facebook pages that for posting found animals, but we don't have it integrated with our website yet. Mainly because right now I don't want to do like a manual entry every time we upload photo and a description. So trying to find the right technology to sync and integrate with our records management system.
Are you Pet Point currently?
Yeah. So you drew that out of me. I was gonna remain anonymous.
No, I mean, it's good to know, right? That's how we grow. It's how we learn. Is anybody else using Pet Point that has a workaround for this?
I think Ann Dunn does in Oakland. So waiting to hear back on how they're doing it there, because she shared that last week in the No Place Like Home Challenge.
Get her to add it as a case study.
I'm on it.
What Steve said about those case studies, right? If everyone could really take that to heart, it really, this will become a lot more powerful when people can actually see something when they're looking for a technology. It'll help them a lot. And we're as a group, we're kind of reaching out to some groups to see if we can get a case study and build it ourselves. But if we can truly crowdsource this, it'll become a really powerful and useful tool. And again, it's because of that range, right? If I'm looking for a software and I'm a pretty sophisticated shelter, I'm going to be more interested in the case studies from another shelter of that size. If I'm a mom and pop and I'm Cindy's Rescue, I'm going to be looking for another small group that is actually using something and probably get the most value at it. So, I don't know, Steve's really good at shaming, guilting us in the tech group to get things done. I don't know how to shame and guilt all of you, but if there's a way to do that, we really need those case studies. It would help.
As a group, we've committed to 100 case studies, I think, by the end of the year. And I haven't checked exactly. I think it's funny. You say I shame people. I was the last one to submit my case study this month. So.
No, whoever chose Steve to lead this group made the best choice they could possibly make. He's done a great job and he does push us and it's really good. Otherwise, you just don't get around to delivering if somebody doesn't give you a deadline.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, we spent a lot of time trying to build something that anyone can contribute to. So.
May I ask if any of this is in Spanish?
It is not. It is not.
It's a good thing to ask for, though. I mean, I mean, obviously, I don't know if there's anyone on our team that can help do that, but if we got a translator, we might be able to figure out how to do that with some content management there, Steve. I don't know.
Yeah, or at a very minimum, we could add in, many browsers have a translate function, so we could add in some instructions on how to do that.
Yeah, Moani, that is such a good question. And those of you that haven't met her, and I'm sorry I popped in late, our new diversity, equity, inclusion strategist, always keeping our finger on the pulse. And I think from the HASS project perspective, because of the limited bandwidth, our primary focus is everything that's public facing. So sort of business to consumer, like our HASS website has been translated. And obviously right now, this is still sort of in the innovation pilot phase, but absolutely totally aligned with you on that.
And I think it hasn't been, we have like the browser so that you can switch over to having it translate. So it wasn't translated by a person. And I guess this, Steve, because it's an add-on to that website, probably won't be able to integrate that, right?
No, but it's a great idea. And I mean, there's built-in functions in most browsers that will translate any web page. So at a minimum, we could add some very clear guidance right at the top of the page for that.
That would be great. And I was thinking too that it might be cool, like as you were saying that, it might be cool to just have instructions for how to do that for people's shelter pages too. Like, how do you set that up?
Mm-hmm.
This is cool. I'm just like thinking, my brain went from like transporting 70 dogs onto a plane to like coming here with you all today and thinking about technology. And it's like a little bit of a shift for my brain right now. But I'm just wondering, like, to add on to Bobby's question, and Kelly and I were kind of chatting in the chat a little bit, like, what do you all need that you don't have technology wise? I think that, like, we really are curious about that question, and I think there's a lot of people on this call today that would be curious about that. And I know, Kelly, you have some things you're missing for foster programs, right?
Yeah, so for foster, I feel like there are several different options, but none of them necessarily coordinate with the shelter software. So, if you're using Foster on Deck, you have to, copy all of the pet information onto the spreadsheet, or if you're using, whatever, it's a two separate system, so it's bulky. And I feel like there are some options out there, but I would love to, I don't know if this would even be possible to have something like a spreadsheet that's like, these are the things that they could possibly do. And this, like this one integrates with shelter software or tracks, pets in foster, or I don't know. Are you guys having as much of a difficulty with foster tech as I think that everybody is having? I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, I'm speaking less, I think, from specifically my role in the tools and tech, and more just on the ground at APA. I think the biggest need to me in the foster space is a comprehensive sort of CRM based system that, a lot of the Shelter Love has a good, module for fosters, but all of the shelter management systems are, I think, more focused on the animals, maybe as they should be. And, haven't traditionally focused really on like tracking and engaging all those interactions with your customers or your fosters. And so I think that's one. And, I think what I've seen, Chris Roy at Dubert's putting something looks pretty promising together. So I think stuff is starting to come out, but that, CRM-y type system is a need. As you were just saying that too, and this is a question I think for the vendors maybe on this call, if we added another page on there that allowed a user to pick a technology and say, here's what else I need in your system, it would, I don't know why I would say it's a complaint, but it's here's what I need from you. Is that something that's useful? Or, is the channel there really just to reach out to that contact at the shelter anyways? I don't know. I'm just kind of brainstorming out loud here.
I'll jump in from Shelter Love's perspective anyway. We're sort of always wanting to find different ways to hear from people. And yeah, some people write into us, but if there's something, I see Jessica saying the same thing in the chat there, that the more ways that we hear from people, the better. And that, Chris, I wanted to say thanks for sharing your need too. I was not trying to set up Pet Point. I just we don't have that function yet either for folks to be able to do a public form that automatically populates to the website. It's just good to hear what people need in any way that comes to us.
Yeah, the biggest thing in the foster space, one is kind of CRM. I think our foster teams too have really embraced sort of text messaging communication with their fosters. And so that as a component to any system where you're interacting, being able to communicate via email, but also text, chat are two big ones.
It's Kathy from Brampton. And I would just say to both Kelly and Stephen's comments about fostering stuff. I mean, Stephen, your point's taken in that we have Chameleon, and typically it's, focused on the animal piece. But now we're in a place, especially virtually, where we'd like to roll out some online training for foster volunteers or direct them to Maddie's foster instructions. And how do we track that stuff? How do we even track for our own teams what webinars or things like that they've come through and completed when the webinars themselves or the vendors who put the webinars out are telling us that they don't have a way to track that necessarily. And we want to ensure that people are doing what they say they're doing and doing what we've asked them to do. And especially when we're looking at putting animals out into foster care, we want to know that they've taken the training that we've asked them to take, and not necessarily add to our own staff's requirements of, okay, well, now you better put together a test so that you can give them the test after they say they've taken the training.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I actually haven't thought about that as much on the foster side, but it's a big part of our volunteer management system. It's a similar thing, right? When you're onboarding a new volunteer, they need to go through X, Y, and Z. And those systems tend to have some of that. But even at APA, it's similar where in the volunteer system, we can, the volunteer manager can check off, yes, no, they've completed the course or the test, but that test is a YouTube video and then a Google quiz outside of the system. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it seems like from when I've talked to people, a lot of people are using like the shelter software for one thing, and then like 17 billion other other ones for like pieces, like Better Impact, is one that a couple are using for orientation trainings, but it gets clunky. So
Especially clunky for animal people who are not tech people.
I think that actually brings up a question that I have for a lot of the shelters on the call. Obviously, a lot of organizations don't have a technology person per se on staff or a technology administrator, but do any of you have like someone who's just sort of your technology ambassador that really loves this work and always has ideas about innovating new technologies? And if you do, what are you doing to sort of create space for them to learn more about tech? Anybody please unmute and share.
So it's Kathy again. We absolutely just in the 2021 budget process got a new FTE for what we're calling an application coordinator. Our original sort of business case for that was specific to Chameleon because we're finding that we really need a dedicated person in the shelter who understands the sheltering piece and understands the technology piece related to Chameleon to ensure that people are, keeping up to speed with their data entry, because just even managing some of the reports to try and pull duplicate person IDs is a challenge if you don't have somebody dedicated to doing it. But we're just in the process of working through that job description, and I'm probably going to give her a heart attack, and one of our team members is on the call, so please don't say anything. but I changed the entire job description from Chameleon this, Chameleon that, Chameleon the other thing to any technological application.
Actually,
go ahead, Steve.
It makes me think of one other thing that we kind of have in the works in the technology group. And David, you've been brainstorming on this as well. So we recognize that as a group of, I think there's 12 of us right now, we're not going to be able to be on the grounds helping individual pilots, like it just can't scale. And so we put a lot of effort into creating this informational database so people can self-serve information. We're noodling on the idea of establishing a sort of a I guess match.com or a technology match.com where, a lot of this work, a lot of the work all of us are doing is remote now, but technology work especially lends itself to remote work. And so the idea would be this platform where we could help connect, able engineers, product managers, UXers, there's a user experience folks, and connect them with shelters in need. I'm curious, what do folks think about that with the caveat? Any project even if you don't have a technology person on staff, no, a project will fail if you don't have sort of a point person who can at least help answer questions. But yeah, I would think there's an appetite for that, but it's something we're noodling on right now.
So it's Kathy again. And I will say I would absolutely be interested in that. However, the big caveat, working for a municipal government organization, and I see a bunch of people nodding their heads, we have a hell of a time getting corporate IT to let us just talk to Chameleon directly. You know, corporate IT knows nothing about what we do or what Chameleon's or any of those things. And yet there's this inherent protectionism, I want to say, and I understand it. There's security issues, etc. But we pay that company a crap load of money every year for a license, which includes tech support. Let us use it. Get out of our way and get the job done. You guys have other things to do. So, you know, we would love personally to be able to work with somebody who could help us do those things. But I know that a bunch of that stuff would probably have to go through our corporate IT, and you know, I might as well just poke myself in the eye with a pencil now. That's it, I'm done.
You know, I don't think we actually discussed that, Steve, but that's interesting. I work for the state of Colorado, so I'm your problem in my state. That is an issue, right? Because with private organizations, that'll be a heck of a lot easier to do. You know, at the state of Colorado, if you want someone from the outside, there's a lot of security obstacles in that in order to get that and to get something implemented. It doesn't change what I think, Steve, we've been talking about, but that's interesting when it comes to tax-funded shelters, because they will be hampered by you know, the governance of whatever group they're under.
Yep.
Bureaucracy is a wonderful thing.
All right, so if we do have additional questions for you, we go to the website and it's easy to find where to send those, right, Steve?
Yeah, I think I could make it easier. It's a little tiny link at the bottom. Maybe I need to accept feedback better. But yeah, it's on the website. I can throw it into the chat now too, but there's the HASS technology email list, unless you would prefer folks go through the website. I don't know.
I think the list is great. Whatever works best for you, I think is what's best.
Grab it right now.
So thank you so much for being here. This is super exciting. And like I said, this will be linked also on the HASS Pro Resources website. So you can be able to find it there as well once we launch that. And we have about 5 minutes left. Anything else? Anybody wants to share? No. Okay. Next week we have Dr. Josh Fisher from Charlotte, and we have Audra. Audra's last name is
Michael.
Michael. Thank you, Kelly. Audra Michael from
Pinal County Animal
Pinal,
Control, I believe.
Yeah. Thank you. And probably we'll have Sarah Aguilar come as well to talk about, who's sitting right across from me, who to come and talk about changing culture for animal control officers. So join us, bring your ACOs, bring your managers, and we'll keep moving forward here. Thank you all so much. See you next week.